Whether your company is in growth mode, protecting what they have on hand, or adapting to a new normal, responsible expense management is never far from an executive's mind. This is particularly true during an economic downturn when the cash generated from expense reductions can be invested in growing your competitive advantage or as an alternative to more drastic action. My name is Philip Ideson, and in this special 5-part Art of Procurement series, I'll share with you the strategies and tactics that you can use to responsibly build the expense management program that your organization needs and achieve cost savings that stick. We'll consider how to build an expense management program, pitfalls to avoid, and the 24 different expense reduction tactics that you can use along the way. I'll be bringing my own personal experience from achieving hundreds of millions of dollars of savings as a practitioner and consultant over the last 20 years in a way that always focused on aligning outcomes with stakeholder and with company needs. Today, in the final part of this 5-part series, I share 7 different general tactics that you can use to gain greater control over your third-party spend. Over the last couple of parts of this series, we discussed a number of incumbent supplier, sourcing, demand, and category management expense reduction tactics. Today, I'm going to share some more general tactics, the ones that really didn't fit in any of those buckets, but are still really effective nonetheless. So the 7 tactics I want to share with you today. The first one is to leverage a GPO model. Now, GPOs are often considered to be for companies who didn't have the volume to negotiate directly with the types of providers that a GPO typically covers, the types of categories that a GPO typically covers. That's not true anymore. So more and more GPOs are used by larger organizations as well as part of a broader category strategy. So which are the categories or which are the suppliers where, it just doesn't make sense for us to have a direct negotiating relationship with. We're going to leave that to the GPO and take advantage of the prices that the GPO has negotiated. Now, as a procurement team, you can actually also leverage a GPO to provide an opportunity to your suppliers and your customers to help them lower their SG&A costs. We talked in a previous part about helping negotiate tier 2 pricing within your supply base. Well, actually giving them access to a GPO model that you have access is another way of doing that, frankly. On the customer side, actually, a model that I built for my company back in the 2008 recession was to enable my customers who are small and medium-sized businesses to access prices that I was able to negotiate because, again, I had the leverage and a lot of our customers were small businesses. So they can get access to those deals that they couldn't on their own. Doing so, you can either do that as a service, to increase your position as a customer of choice, or you can do it as an incentive, to keep their business with you versus some of the competitors. But a really interesting way for procurement to really support from a sales perspective in these times, not just from an expense reduction perspective. Now, if you're doing that, ask any prospective GPO. This is both whether you're doing it for yourself or your customers or suppliers. Ask any prospective GPO what they do to ensure the prices remain in line with market prices, because many only negotiate periodically, which means you might start with big savings up front, but over time you end up paying higher than market pricing. And if you are interested in a GPO model, please do let me know. I'd be happy to share a little bit more information and ways that we may be able to support you. All right, the next general tactic is a buying desk for low dollar spend items. So you might recall at the beginning of this series, I actually discussed the notion of spend under management, that a certain percentage of your third-party spend is tough to influence proactively. Mostly just shows up when you do the reporting. And a big part of that number can actually be attributed to what we call tail spend. So that's the thousands of low-dollar purchases that are made from a large number of different suppliers. Typically, this bottom 20% of your spend actually accounts for 80% plus of your total number of suppliers. So you probably already have a spend threshold for when you buy a product or service more strategically, where procurement really has to get involved, maybe $100,000. Let's just say for this example, it's $100,000. And you may have a corporate credit card program or a delegation of authority policy where employees can buy whatever they want under a certain threshold. So let's say $5,000. But what about the spend between the $5,000 and the $100,000? So this is where a buying desk can come in. So we typically build a buying desk in a low-cost country to ensure it delivers an appropriate ROI, and the buyers actually negotiate directly with these suppliers who otherwise would just have had their quotes accepted. And where it's appropriate to do so, these buyers will go to market in an attempt to get 3 quotes. This might sound like old school procurement, but it is an effective way to bring oversight to your tail spend. Okay, the next tactic is to provide greater access to your already negotiated deals. So returning again to the discussion when we talked about that funnel of going from your $1 billion in spend. I think this was back in part 1 of the series. You got your $1 billion in spend actually goes all the way down to $250 million that you can actually influence in any given year. And then you have savings leakage because folks aren't able to actually buy from the deals that you put in place. One of the reasons this occurs is because employees don't actually know about the contracts that you put in place, and so they just continue to purchase in the way that they always did. So at a minimum, consider using your internal website to provide directions on all of the negotiated deals you have in place and how employees can leverage them. But better still is look to enable self-service through online catalogs, or if you have the technology that enables this, it's really powerful, it's using a guided buying solution. Now, another primary driver of savings leakage is inaccurate billing. So put simply, you may be paying for the things that you didn't receive, paying prices above those that are renegotiated because of billing mistakes that are made by your suppliers. This is especially prevalent in a lot of categories with a number of SKUs or line items or a high volume of transactions. So think freight, logistics, telecom as just some examples. So what you can do is you can actually audit supplier invoices for accuracy. Something that you can do yourself, by getting into line level detail. But there are a number of different service providers. Again, happy to connect you with any that actually do this that are very category specific. Oftentimes those opportunities are no risk, no upfront payment. It's all contingency based on what they find and what they're able to recover. Next tactic is to increase your P card or your corporate card usage. Now, earlier in the guide, I suggested the potential to tighten controls on your corporate P card usage, through demand management as a demand management tactic. But the good news is you can tighten controls while still increasing your net spend. Most corporate P card programs are severely underutilized. I've seen many programs that are really failing to hit the original business case of spend that is actually spent on them. Now, increasing total spend actually reduces the internal transaction costs associated with the procure to pay process, which is one benefit. The other benefit is that a lot of the business cases for corporate P cards are based on rebates. And while you increase your spend, you also increase the rebates that you receive from the card issuers. Now, the next area of next tactic, if you will, that's more of a general tactic, is creative bartering. So what's creative bartering? When I say bartering, I don't really mean bartering in the traditional sense. I'll give you a barrel of oil in return for an hour of your time. You make this, I make this, let's just swap. What I think about when it comes to bartering is that there may be opportunities to reduce the cost of something that you want to buy by offering something in return. And an example, and I know I've shared this example on the podcast before, is when I was a practitioner, one of my categories of responsibility was childcare. Long before we had kids, it's fair to say that when I started that category, I didn't know a lot about what I was doing. The company I worked for, we needed an on-site childcare center, and we had an empty building to use for it, but no budget to pay for its ongoing operation. So we found a leading provider of childcare services who were motivated to use our childcare center as a pillar of their strategy to expand into our country. We leased them that building for free. Because we had an empty building that we could dedicate to this, and they operated the childcare center with zero cost to us. Things like that are true win-wins, and you really need to get to the heart of, what is a supplier wanting from their relationship with you or potential relationship with you? Because, going in, I think within procurement is that we think they want to maximize the profitability of a deal. That's not always the case. They often have different strategies of why they want to work with us. And the last general tactic that I want to share is a more targeted use of subject matter experts. So in many organizations, it's really not possible to build a procurement team full of category domain experts with an understanding of current market conditions. The ROI of doing so, it just doesn't support that model, especially if you're only going to be sourcing something once every 2, once every 3 years. Historically, it's been difficult to access that level of subject matter expertise unless it's through an expensive, large-scale procurement consulting engagement, or whether you're hiring a contractor, for a 3 or a 6 month project. Now, today, organizations can access subject matter expertise in a much more flexible way, whether it's just to support the opportunity assessment phase, whether it's behind the scenes coaching, during the development of category and sourcing strategies, or even during the execution, through the negotiation stage, just being a voice to help guide your team through that process. Or you can use them to manage entire projects. So here at Art of Procurement, for example, we support our clients with access to domain experts who are always in the market for a particular product or service. We do that through our experts on demand model. And you can tap into resources such as this on an as-needed basis as part of your expense management program. It really helps to accelerate the time, if you're using this in a targeted way to secure and maximize your savings. So those are all the tactics that I wanted to share with you on this series. There's 24 tactics in total over the past 3 parts of this 5-part series. I hope that I've shared with you that it really is possible to build an expense management program that delivers outsized returns that are in line with the exact needs of your business. You don't have to take this bull in a china shop approach or this cost savings at all costs approach. But to do so really does require care, consideration, and a really targeted approach. Now, when we look at what can we achieve, according to the Hackett Group research, world-class procurement organizations, they achieve 2 times the ROI of those in their peer group. So taking some of the steps we discussed is going to ensure that you maximize your impact while positioning your procurement team as a driver of business success, again, rather than that cost savings at all cost tool that is only deployed when we have times of crisis. If you do need any help at any point of your expense management journey, please do let me know. We talked a little bit about the fact that we develop customized expense management programs here at Art of Procurement that pull from a broad network of pre-vetted subject matter experts. Those that are specialists in leveraging some or all of the tactics that we discussed. Often those are available at zero upfront cost. We also help building the infrastructure that we talked about right at the very beginning, so you're really setting the foundations to succeed. And finally, we just launched a free resource this week for the procurement community that brings together really all the tactics, the processes, and a number of templates that you can use to self-guide your way through this journey. These are all available as a free resource, as I said, for the procurement community. It's at somewhere that we called Expense Management Hub. So connect directly with me, whether it's for help in getting your program off the ground, for expertise along the way, or if you're looking for tools, templates that are going to help you and your team in this journey, and you're interested in Expense Management Hub, just go to artofprocurement.com/contact. That's artofprocurement.com/contact. You'll be able to reach out to me directly there. I want to close by just saying thank you for continuing to support and to listen to Art of Procurement, for joining me through this 5-part series this week. And we'll be back next week with more from the Art of Procurement. Thanks for listening to this Art of Procurement special series. For more information and for templates and cheat sheets that you can use to help drive savings that stick, we've created a free-to-access expense management hub that is powered by AOP Mastermind. For more information about the Expense Management Hub, go to artofprocurement.com/expense hub. That's artofprocurement.com/expense hub.